Okay, guys, no faffing about. It's Nintendo Direct time.
Well,
Jesus Christ, Abram, as
yeah.
I live and breathe, a real Nintendo Direct in the Nintendo Switch 2 era is happening. And this isn't one of those Nintendo Directs where they gotta yap and they gotta talk and they gotta introduce all these talking heads that are like, here's Nintendo Switch 2, the Joy-Con come off, it has an Ethernet port, 4K, 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 911, 911, 911. They don't need to do
TV,
that.
TV, TV, football, Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly. They don't need to do that anymore. This is a 60-minute Nintendo Direct talking about video games.
Yeah, there's because there's been a point of discord in the community that we're not really going to get into, but about people saying, "Oh, Nintendo's not been communicating." In reality, they've had more
Yes.
directs in the last couple months than like ever before,
Yeah.
but they've all been like little things. You get a
Correct.
little Donkey Kong direct, you get a little partner showcase,
Yeah.
but this is the big Kahuna.
They've
We know
also been
that.
hit or miss in terms of like how
True.
exciting people find them. There was I think a decent indie world, but for me it wasn't very exciting because it was mostly stuff that had previously been announced. The Mario
Yes,
Kart
I
Direct
agree.
was actually kind of boring. The Donkey Kong Direct was good. We're going all over the place in terms of what's in this
Yeah.
stuff.
And this we don't know that much about it, but what we do know is that it's about Switch 1 and Switch 2 games.
Yeah, of course.
There's no time frame specified. Often a direct will say what 40 minutes of material about games coming and the remainder of the year or whatever. They don't say that. It just says
Wait,
Switch 1, Switch 2 games and
who
it's an
said
hour
60
long.
minutes? Oh, an hour. Oh, okay. That's How is that different from
Wait.
45 minutes?
No, what I'm saying is usually they say, "Oh, it's stuff coming in the next
Oh,
3 months of the year or
I
whatever."
see. A time
That
window of release. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, the time window of release. I believe it's not on this.
No, but that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I mean, this I think is going to be something that gives us a solid roadmap.
That's
We
my
actually have been getting further out announcements all through this year, both in the March Direct, which had both Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven announced for 2026, which was stupid and annoying, and I wish they hadn't done that. But also Dust Bloods being announced in the April Direct, Switch 2 Direct, for 2026. So we have three games that are already announced for next year
Yeah.
that Nintendo it would be smart to give some updates on at least one of them, if not two of them. I don't know what order those games are going to come out in. I don't really know if we need to get in those games. Okay, I hope we see them. I hope we get release dates. Another quick thing. We're gonna get a release date for Hyrule Warriors. We're gonna get a release date for Metroid. Like those are pretty much locked in, and we don't really need to go too deep into them.
Yes, we do.
Oh well, how much do we need to fucking talk about it? It's like okay, it's gonna
I
release
have
within
to.
2 months. Like
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The only thing I care about, me, Abram Buhner, is the Metro Prime 4 release date. If I can be totally honest, I can let you into my fucking dark, sick,
sure,
twisted
sure.
brain.
I got great news for you,
And
buddy.
yeah, we're gonna get it.
Yeah, we're gonna get it. Yeah, like that.
And,
That is
and
the safest thing, actually. Like it might honestly be like 45 minutes of black, and then they say September 27th, and then they just go in black. Like that's the most likely scenario.
well, because here's the thing. Let's up the stakes a little bit. Let's put some gumption into the predictions. When do
Yeah.
you think it's coming up? Because I have a date in my head that I think it's gonna be.
Uh, we already have a October game. I mean, I think late September is like now. I forgot. I keep thinking it's
Yeah.
August. Um,
You want my date?
yeah, sure. I think
November
November.
6th.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I think right in between Pokemon and Kirby makes sense. Yeah, I agree with you.
There's a conspicuously big gap but this is partially Nintendo Forecast, the GOAT,
Hmm.
one of Nintendo Forecast talking points. I think it makes
Yeah,
perfect sense. Prime games are released in November before. That's a nice window.
yeah.
Why is Kirby so
It's
late?
really late. Yeah.
Yeah, if they didn't have something else in the middle there. So I think that's gonna hit then. Follow-up question for you.
Yes.
Prime 2 and 3. You think those are gonna emerge
Oh,
in the window prior?
yeah. I mean, we're 48 hours from finding out if those games are ever happening or not.
Yeah. I still
um,
err on the side of no.
I think
I
no.
say no.
Yeah, I think no. Just think it'd be too much Metroid. Especially that close together. Like, why wouldn't they have just put those out earlier in the year if they were gonna happen? Like, it's not like those games are like they're working on until the last minute. If anything, those are
That
some of the Nintendo games that they'd worked on and held. But I think it's too late. I think it's too late.
they're too big. play commitments for the player.
Oh
When
yeah,
Pikmin 1 and 2 came out, you
yeah.
can beat those games together easily in like a week or
Yeah,
less.
and the effort that went into those ports allowed them to be something you can just kind of put out there without like a ton of fanfare.
Those games I think are just honestly intrinsically better and more accessible than Prime 2 and 3 are.
Mm-mm.
3 would need a lot of work for the motion control stuff, and 2 I think just needs a lot of balancing stuff.
Yeah,
I actually even rebalanced it for the Wii version, so I say no to that.
yeah, I agree.
Um, they're also not narratively relevant. People always make a big deal. Oh, Prime is such a narratively rich series. There's a lot of lore, but there's not a continuity to
Yeah,
where you need to play 2 or 3, or even 1, frankly,
yeah,
probably
yeah,
to
yeah.
get 4. Silex is in about 2 minutes of Prime 3 and Hunters combined, so let's all relax.
To that point of the Metroid series, though, if I'm remembering correctly, Dread came out late 2021. Uh,
Yeah.
GBA Online wasn't even available on Switch at that point, and so majority
Yes.
or a very significant portion of the games before Dread, narratively, because it's Metroid 5, weren't available, and
I
they
didn't
didn't
care.
give they didn't give a fuck. Like, and that's something that if they had cared about that, they could have released a frankly like a 2D Metroid collection, like 4 games for $30 or something. That wouldn't made a ton of sense, but they could have done that. But so I just don't think they give a shit. But that doesn't
Yeah,
mean we won't get them eventually. I do think that Nintendo is in the point of their history where I think they want things to be accessible on their hardware for perpetuity, and so those games may come at some point. But I don't. I think
yeah.
now is not. It would have been the right time, but now is not the right time.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're really interesting games. I especially really love 3. I got my Wii U hooked back up so I can replay those.
Oh.
My hope, Tucker, is that I don't have enough time to replay Prime 1 before 4. See what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Um, but let's talk about the other sort of obvious stuff, and then we can get into the hooting and hollering about crazy stuff.
Sure.
Hyrule Warriors, just give me a yes or no. Is it in 2025? I say no.
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think winter's been too vague. I think they should have just said 2025 if
Yeah.
they meant 2025. I think that's a January game. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be early next year as well. Um, Splatoon Raiders, you think we'll see Splatoon
Oh
Raiders?
shit! Oh shit! I forgot about that one. Uh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, and I think that's March. I think the lineup for the first quarter of the year is Hyrule Warriors, Rhythm Heaven, Splatoon Raiders, Tomodachi in summer, Duskbloods in summer, and then
Cool.
something Mario in between Tomodachi and Duskbloods, something Mario to close out the year. But and like at that point, that's already like a decently full year.
Yeah, it is. Um, I had one other sort of high-level question about stuff we already know.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that anything we talked about, Metroid is probably the one that would get this slot, if anything,
Mm,
would open or close the direct?
no. No, I don't think so. Metroid already got an opening, or sorry, a closing.
Hmm.
And I think there's just bigger things that they have to talk about that would warrant opening and closings. Because
Yeah.
usually, and I guess a release date would be this. So like opening on Metroid and giving us a release date is a big enough piece of news for the community, for the fandom. Um, but I think you want to give a little more juice to the opening of your first Switch 2 era direct.
I actually think it will be Metroid that opens it
Okay.
because the reason I think this is because if especially if the game is quite soon, I think you give it a big show-stopping trailer, and then the direct host comes on and is like, "What you just saw was our release date trailer for Metroid Prime
Yes.
4. Here's producer Sakamoto or whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
Yoshio Sakamoto to talk with you a little bit more about the game," and they do a little Metroid section, and then they
Mm.
move on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just wonder how
That's
much
just like
more
a
they
gut
want to
feeling.
tell us because it did show up in 2 directs already this year, and the
Yeah.
release date's kind of the only other thing, and unless there is some mechanical element or some narrative element that is showstop worthy, because usually when they do a major trailer like that, it's for us to like really expand our knowledge of what the game is, right? It's the capture mechanic for Odyssey, and you're like, what the hell is
Yeah.
going on there? It's a major thing for Tears of the Kingdom. It's like, oh, I didn't know about that, and those are games that have been shown off previously. I don't think that Prime 4 has that space in it. Like, I don't think there's a surprise Metroid Prime 4 mouthful mode waiting in the wings. I think it's like
Yeah.
maybe
I
maybe
agree.
one cool psychic ability, probably. But like
Yeah.
I just don't know what there would be other than like an 80-second trailer in the release date that they could really talk about that would warrant it getting such a powerful slot, especially in the moment when people are so hungry for new information. That would be new information in that it's a release date, but that's like people already know that that's coming. It's just like that's just like a okay, all right, finally.
Yeah, maybe I just also think about like we opened on Dragon Quest 1 and 2.
That's true.
Um,
Well, that was
you
just it.
know, or we've opened on Pokemon DLC. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I just think that there's a chance that they're like, oh,
Two
here's
things
a
that'll
bunch
sell
of
probably twice as much as Prime Four.
exactly.
Yeah,
I just think that there's a chance of like, oh, here's some really unique environments and here's some
yeah,
cool scenes of action and maybe you see like Ridley's shadow fly over something. But it's ultimately irrelevant. It's just sort of a it's like it's almost when you're doing like sports betting, not that I've ever sports bet, but you do like
yeah,
parlays, you're gonna hit a three-leg thing.
yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
November 6th
My brother,
opening
my
the
brother made
direct,
four
no
hundred
Prime
dollars on
2.
a parlay the other day. He put in
That's
$20. It
incredible.
was a 6 leg parlay, and he got five of
Holy
them.
fuck. That is incredible.
Yeah, so he made a lot of money on that.
That is incredible. All right, Tucker, let's get into um, the unknown now, because I think we basically touched on everything that's known. I
That's good.
tend to agree with you
Yeah,
in terms of because you mentioned like Tomodachi Life, Rhythm Heaven.
yeah,
I think we'll see a little bit of those.
yeah.
Um,
I think Duskbloods, if it's, I think it's a summer game or even later, maybe. I don't think we see
yeah.
that now. I think they save that till it's like, all right, we're gonna start a serious marketing cycle for this.
Here's a question to kind of bring us into it,
Hmm.
because we know that it's Switch 1 and Switch 2 games. Do you think we're going to get a meaningful number of Switch 1 games announced?
I think two. I think
Okay.
we'll see Yoshi. I think that'll be on both. And I think we'll get a Mario game that's on both, a spinoff of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, this actually sort of,
And then
is an
also,
important.
Rhythm Heaven, Tomodachi Life, Pokemon, Metroid. These are already all Switch One games as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a relevant point to raise because obviously the date of the anniversary Mario's anniversary is the 13th, right?
Yes. So this is gonna
So
be very Mario heavy.
this yeah,
And also,
this
this year has been, other than Kart, is like it's been conspicuously quiet on the Mario front. Like this, like they've been doing like 3 or 4 Mario games a year leading up to this, and this year they're just like, I mean, Mario Kart is like the biggest one you can get, but like
right.
we gotta. I mean, frankly, and I think this might be where we should start this. I think a Mario game spinoff of some kind that Shadow drops, like Mario 35 did, is not only not, or even if it's something that releases like 6 weeks, like we saw like 3D All Stars and
Well, 3D
Mario Kart
All-Stars is like
Tour.
1 week.
That's true. But I'm saying like
And
tight window.
sure.
I think a Mario game, or frankly even two, releasing before the end of the year are actually very likely.
Yeah, I mean it's not a new idea, but it's odd that there's nothing in September, right?
Yeah,
From
yeah.
Nintendo. There's no September release. And so I think
Well, except for September
Mar
12th Shadow drop.
well, that's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
correct. And like I think a Mario thing is sort of necessary. And I think that part
yeah.
of why this direct is an hour is because they're going to have a lot of anniversary stuff to say. I still err. I have kind of 2 points of contention around the anniversary.
Hmm.
One, I think that the big anniversary game is Mario Kart World. I think
Sure,
that
I agree with that.
um
Yeah, I don't think anything bigger than
the
Mario Kart World is going to be announced and released for the end of the
exactly.
year.
And I think that the anniversary is going to be considered in
Well,
their
actually, no.
eyes.
Sorry, I disagree. They're going to announce and release Mario Kart World with no intermissions, and it's going to sell 5 bazillion copies.
Exactly. Exactly. As soon as you do one DLC pack in that game, it's
Yeah,
fixed. You add 4 3-lap tracks, and that game is fixed. Um, I think that Nintendo is going to be considering the anniversary as starting on September 13th. Does
I
that make
agree.
sense? Like I think
Oh, I
that
totally agree. Yeah,
the movie is an anniversary thing in
but
my eye.
yeah, yeah. I do agree with that. Well, I think they view it as starting with the Switch 2's launch, right?
I
With the
think that's
release of
also
Mario
fair.
Kart World, another some fun thing to in the holiday season this year. Like I think it's just going to be sort of a quarterly
Yeah.
thing. Like then I think a major spin-off or something in summer of next year, like a sports game or something. I think this cadence really tracks.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of what that might be,
Yeah.
where's your head at? Because here's where my head is at. I don't want to. There's no
Is it up
stakes.
your ass?
I mean, usually, but not right now. I had to
Okay,
take it
okay.
out to read this information about the direct.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to be one of these people out here being like, "Oh, here's what makes the most sense,"
Mm-hmm.
because there's no stakes in in this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to come out here and say, "Oh, it makes the most sense that this can be a Wonder 2 Switch, a Wonder Switch 2
Yeah,
edition."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want a Wonder 2 sequel
Wonder
because
sequel.
yes, no, I want Wonder 3. Skip
Fuck
Wonder
it,
2.
fuck it.
I think that when you make the point about how many Mario games there have been,
Yeah.
that's a point that involves thinking about the development teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about what are the development teams that have Mario or Mario related
Yep.
games probably done or close to done. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the answer is not too many, but I think that EPD 10 could have one. I
Yeah.
continue to beat the drum of a Galaxy 2 style sequel to Wonder making sense per the way they spoke about the development of Wonder.
Mm.
The sort of open-ended development
Interesting. Yeah.
process,
Mm.
iterating on all kinds of level concepts,
Yeah.
bringing stuff that they were proud of but was cut from the game to GDC talks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a lot of level ideas, and I
Yeah.
just don't think that an iterative sequel to Wonder is that unlikely.
No, I
Especially if that's
agree.
an early 2026 game.
Yeah.
That's like 2.5 years later, and that feels reasonable
Oh,
if you're
early
ostensibly
2026. Oh, interesting.
like start knitting together stuff that you didn't put into
Yeah.
Wonder 1. I don't think that that's that hard to imagine.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Um, yeah, how does that then fit? Because I like that idea. I don't think you're right about it, but I like the idea. How would that then fit into like the first 5 months of the year? Things would shift around. That would be March, definitely. Like,
Yeah.
alongside the movie, March is
Or it could
usually.
even be May,
Oh, that's
like where
interesting.
Tears of the Kingdom came out.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that would just slot right after the first. Oh man, that would be crazy. Um, yeah, man, because then you have Pokemon at the end of the year next year. Like, oh man, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. I'm thinking a lot about this. Sure, I like that. I think
Yeah.
I've gone on a limb and said I think that Maker 3 is more likely.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
that online connection, game chat. I think mouse mode. I think all of these things that the Switch 2 does so well that are
Yeah.
improvements on Switch 1 make a lot of sense for them to revisit Mario Maker. I think also post Wonder. I think flip flopping back and forth and getting that out early in the life cycle of Switch 2 so it can then be updated for a while. And also very easy or not easy. Sorry, very emblematic of an anniversary game. Of course, Mario Maker 1 was that
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Great point.
Um, and it's also time for Mario Maker. Mario Maker 2 came out 6 years ago, or it'll be 7 years ago. And so I think that makes more sense. I because it's when second game released, I see it in my mind's eye as a summer game. Though that could certainly still be the case if they announce it tomorrow and say it's coming in June. Like that's fine. Like that's possible. I would err on that being something they might want to lean into a little bit quicker because of its
Yeah.
potential as something that is celebratory, that has long term potential, and does take more advantage of Switch 2's hardware than a one or two would.
Yeah, I mean, I just Mario Maker is so interesting to me because it should be like Mario Maker should be the best-selling game on a Nintendo
Yeah,
system,
yeah.
especially in like our current environment of like user-generated content and everything. Like I just am so surprised it's not bigger than it is.
Hmm.
And I think that part of the problem was just releasing it in the proximity to um, U Deluxe, which ended up
Yep.
being new
Mm-hmm.
to most people and the best-selling 2D Mario game
Yep.
on Switch by a significant margin.
Hmm.
So I think that I would love for them to do like a proper Maker 3, but part of me is also curious if that's something that EPD 10 is even that interested in, because part of their conversation around Mario Wonder, and when you go back and read the interviews about it, is that they sort of felt like there's this existential problem of how do you make something after Mario Maker?
Yeah.
And they did Wonder, and so I just wonder, no pun intended, but I just wonder if like if they would so quickly go back to Maker, if they're
Mm.
like, well, we've got a little bit more to extract
Yeah.
from this Wonder stuff first. I'd be very happy with either, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, here's the thing is I think Monkey's Paw partially curls is that a Wonder Switch 2 thing with an extra world and then Maker 3 next year. I think that's a combo that could work.
To that point though, I also think the inverse could work. Uh,
Yeah.
a Maker 2 with mouse and with maybe a Wonder theme and then a
Hmm.
Wonder 2.
Yeah, but that
I
is a
think
Maker 3. Like at a certain point, is like, why would you call that a Switch 2 edition when adding a whole
yeah.
other theme and mouse controls?
Yeah, I mean I agree with you. It's just like, well, I wonder if they partially just think like, is there even it if the Switch if you can make a really great Switch 2 version of Mario Maker 2
Yeah.
and give that game
Yeah.
another shot, why go back to the ground, why go back to the start and like try to reimagine the UI and reimagine all that
Mm.
shit about the game?
Sure.
I don't know. But what other Mario stuff do you think is possible?
Mm.
Because I have
Uh,
a hope and then
I,
I have a thinking. It's not a verb, it's not a noun.
I think uh, a Camelot Mario sports game for Q2 is probably pretty likely. It's been a very long time, actually, since a Mario
Yeah.
sports game happened. It's been a very long time, especially since Camelot has put out a game. I think something. I think because it's been so long, I almost wonder if it's something a little bit more ambitious for a Mario sports game where it is a Mario sports mix ostensibly. That's not wouldn't be the name of the
Yeah.
game. That has two or three sports in it, maybe even more. That then that's kind of what they release around the Mario movie or just after it. I think that cadence lines up in terms of dev team, in terms of variety. We don't have a sports game on the system yet. So I think that is another thing that would probably be announced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just continue to err on the side that they're making a Golden Sun game or something.
Yeah,
I don't see why they didn't like turn out another sports game in the time after golf if
yeah.
indeed they were working on one. Like these games just do not get that kind of input.
They
Um,
don't, but I think maybe they should. They Super Rush especially was lower received in terms of what people want out of those games. And I don't think it actually sold particularly well.
I'm actually looking
Um,
that up.
at least, well, that would be my gut feeling. I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I think it's funny that you say that because one of the things that we criticized Nintendo of, especially in 2021, is pushing out a game like Super Rush clearly before it was ready. That game's visual polish was not up to par. The amount of content was not up to par. And so I think if they don't want to repeat those mistakes of that game, giving it well, I guess at this point would be a 5 year dev cycle instead of four or instead of three. That's better for everyone.
Yeah, I just still think that even like Mario Tennis Aces was what 3 years after Ultra Smash came out.
Yeah,
These are all like at a certain point going to be iterative on these
yeah, yeah,
Switch
of course.
bases. I just feel like if there's another sports game, I really think that they're going to go for something that's not yet been mined. And the
Hmm.
two options, as you're saying, is either a third of these sports compilation games after Sports Mix and the 3DS one,
Hmm.
Sports Superstars, or a baseball game. And baseball would come from Bandai Namco, and I really think that
Yeah,
they got a baseball game. I really do. I don't know. Maybe that's
it
just what I
would
want in
come
my
from
heart.
Bandai Namco. I think is true because they made the other ones, but I don't think it's necessarily true in that it's very possible for Camelot to handle a Mario baseball game. It's very possible for another team to handle a Mario baseball game.
Yeah.
We do know that Bandai Namco at the moment is helping with Kirby Air Riders. That doesn't mean they do have a second project. I'm sure of that. So maybe it's that, but
Yeah.
also some mixture of these things could also be true.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
in a
as
time
it,
period where like because like we've got series being handed to different dev teams anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I was trying to look into it the other day, even in terms of like how many teams does Bandai Namco have that are working with Nintendo, and how
yeah,
big are they?
yeah.
There's at least two. There's at least one that's working with Nintendo through the Pokemon Company for Pokemon stuff,
Mm.
and one working on Smash
What
Brothers
other Pokemon game? Snap and what?
and Pokken before that.
Oh, that's a good point. Though I don't think those line up in terms of like that is what that team does.
I was looking at the credits. It kind of does.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so then 5 years would put us at a Bandai Namco Pokemon game next year, which is
I mean, there is
which could even be announced today or tomorrow,
it,
Friday.
Well, there's that Riddler coup guy, and I don't know if he's reputable or not.
Hmm.
People cite him as though he is. Not that that means anything in the Nintendo community. But saying that there's something Pokemon being announced in September and it's not relevant
Yeah,
to ZA.
yeah,
So it could be a Bandai Namco spinoff game.
yeah. That'd be
I don't
cool.
know.
And to that point, that's kind of what the announcement cadence was for new Pokemon Snap, right? And now, like teased or announced sort of later in the year, fully shown off at around Pokemon Day, and then released a couple weeks later. Um,
Wasn't that announced in a Pokemon Presents?
yeah, there was like a later in the year Pokemon Presents for some reason in 2020
I
because we
have
knew
this
about
memory
it.
of,
We knew about it before 2021
yeah, I think it was announced at a Pokemon Presents in 2020
in
because I
in
have this
February.
no in the summer because I have this memory
Yeah,
of working with my dad and seeing that get announced
yeah, I think that's
like
maybe right. Yeah,
when I was
yeah,
taking like a lunch break. It's like a very specific weird
yeah.
memory I have. But I think that's a possibility. There's one other Mario adjacent thing I wanted to run past, and we talked about this on Discord a little bit, which is Luigi's Mansion.
Oh yeah.
I just think, and again, every prediction I'm giving does not all slot into the same timeline, just because that's just
Hmm.
not how my head's working. This is all stuff that I just think is possible
Yeah,
or
yeah, I agree.
likely.
Yeah.
Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon was a March game.
Hmm.
Luigi's Mansion 3 was a massively consequential Switch title in terms
Hmm.
of sales and critical reception. Next Level Games is another one of those teams that I do think, like EPD10, could have a Mario related
Yeah.
project ready. And I think that that as a kind of prelude to the movie makes sense in my mind
Hmm.
as a possible March game. So I would throw out Luigi's Mansion 4 as a strong possibility for an announcement for release within 6 months.
Yeah, I think the game's coming next year. I don't know if it's going to be first half or second half of the year game. One thing I've been thinking about as we've been talking here is I wonder if Nintendo almost presents this Mario 4th anniversary not as they did in 2020, where it was Mario 35 and Mario Kart and Super Mario 3D All Stars, but more as a celebration of the anniversary for Mario and his friends, because I do think that
Yeah.
that's kind of what the Mario 2 movie is going to be, a little bit bigger focus on Donkey Kong and Yoshi and probably Peach and Luigi. Like you've got these five characters that actually at this point all have their own series. Donkey Kong is already covered. Mario is going to be covered. Peach got a game last year. I don't think it's time for another game focused on Peach. We're very confident that a Yoshi game is coming in the form of a remake, or sorry,
Yeah.
a port. I think an original Yoshi game is probably not within the next 8 months, but maybe early 27 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for Luigi. And so maybe it is something where it's like, it's the 40th anniversary. Here's a slew of Mario Universe. Or Mario World, right? They can lean into that because that's actually the name of the second movie, Super Mario World. Have a
Yeah.
Yoshi game, have a Luigi game, have a Mario Maker that is that celebration, and maybe does have like think about a Mario Maker 3, right? That has different playable characters with different move sets, like they did
Yeah.
in Mario 2, or the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Like I think that that is something that could really really happen, and celebrate a wider breadth rather than sticking with just Mario.
Yeah, again, shout out the Goat. Nintendo Forecast made a good video about how some of the marketing and messaging around Mario has been specifically about Mario and Friends as of late.
Yeah,
And so I like where your head's at there, and
yeah,
I think that's a strong
yeah.
call.
Kart DLC is
Um,
also definitely happening.
yeah, we'll see that for sure.
I mean, hopefully it's Donkey Kong related, or maybe it's
Yeah,
Mario Universe related, right? Maybe it is something that is a Yoshi track, a Luigi track, and a Donkey Kong track, and then has Egad and Pauline and Poochie or something like that.
or it's just simply a collection of tracks that have no particular branding. They're just more tracks in the world.
True.
Part of me just thinks that like the you can make a good case for like the Donkey Kong expansion to the
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
but I also think you can just make a good case for that being something that's just convenient in people's minds.
yeah.
But I do think there'll be DLC for that game shown off
Yes, I agree.
tomorrow. Sorry, Friday. We have to wait. We have to wait an excruciatingly long 48 hours for the direct.
No.
Um, I want to run past a couple other big ticket
Yeah.
possibilities and just get your temperature check on them.
Hmm.
Again, saying yes to one doesn't mean you can't say yes to the other, even though they wouldn't both be in the same direct.
Yeah.
I'm just curious for odds here on various things. Animal Crossing.
No, I think it's too early.
Think so?
Yeah, I think
I
if anything, that would be announced next year. I don't think it's coming
I
out
think
next year.
in my head canon, I think if this is a big tease for 2026, it would be Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree with you.
Even just like in the way that New Leaf was teased, so just like a simple thing
Hmm.
of like Tom Nook's like, hey, fuckers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
coming back.
Maybe Maple Festival HD,
Very
which is
possible.
funny because that game was already HD. Why don't I guess I'm putting 4K at the end of these names?
Well, it's funny because when we were playing,
Louis
because
just mentioned two 4K.
we visited the great Botox games recently, and we were playing
Yes.
various Wii U titles, and I was looking at them and really assessing the visual quality of like a Mario Party 10 and realizing like, man, Nintendo's games really do look massively better than they did in the Wii U era. So you
Mm-mm.
could make a really much better looking Animal
Yeah,
Crossing Festival.
especially in terms of like detail and stuff. Yeah, like that game looked pretty flat when we were playing it.
Zelda.
Oh, in what capacity is the question? Because I don't think it's time for
Fucking
2D or 3D. Um, I mean, unless it's a 3D tease for something for 27, because I think that's when that game would come out if in that year with the movie. Um, no, and I think they're kind of done with those long, far out um, announcements. So I think that would maybe be a closer for a summer direct next year.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
3D Mario.
No.
I agree.
Yeah. There's too much other Mario stuff to theorize that that is coming when that timeline wise of development doesn't make a lot of sense.
Smash Brothers.
No. No.
I agree. I just want to.
No.
I just want to.
Here's the thing: is I do think that there is a certain cadence that we have to show some respect to. Of there already are games announced either from certain teams or series that I don't think they want to
Yeah.
step on the toes of. I don't think Metroid 6 is getting announced tomorrow. That doesn't mean that game might not even be announced next year and released before the end of next year. But I don't think they announce it tomorrow because they still have to focus on Prime 4. I think Smash Bros. Hasn't even started development yet, if anything. Like they're just and to the point of 3D Mario as well. It's like look, Bonanza just came out. Give a little bit of time to rest.
Part of why I'm asking you these questions is that I think a great service we can provide to the community, not to blow smoke up our own asses, is that I think we have a more acute understanding of who makes what.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's important to note that some of these things are not likely because the people aren't
yes,
ready with
yes,
the next game, or it doesn't make sense in the sequence of when the last game released.
yeah,
So yeah, I agree with you on every one of those points. The only thing that I think we probably disagree on is the likelihood of an Animal Crossing.
sure,
Just because if Nintendo wants to put a pin in something big for next
yeah.
year, I think that's the only like S tier thing that they have that could conceivably be coming in 2026, in my
Yeah,
view.
sure.
And
Alongside Gen 10, which would probably also happen
sure, but I'm just thinking from within
in-house Nintendo.
EPD.
Yeah, except for maybe, though I don't think this would be announced tomorrow, maybe a Switch Sports sequel. I think that could happen next year. Though I think that would be an early of the year announcement for summer.
Two-part question on the back of that, on the
Yeah.
back of EPD 4. Did you ever even try the playtest? And B, do you think that'll
No.
get shown off?
We got into it, but I didn't ever launch it.
Yeah.
Fuck me, dude.
Because I'll give you my take, having played
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of it. I think it's incomprehensible, truly.
Yeah.
I, I now that I've played it, I disagree with the notion that the game is close enough to release
Mm-mm.
to just emerge right away.
Sure.
In my view, the mechanics are there, but the scaffolding is not. There's
Yeah.
no meaningful onboarding. It's very confusing. And so I think that to me, I view it as a game that has another year
Yeah.
of being fleshed out to it still. I
Yeah.
don't think this will be
That's
short.
interesting. I agree with you from what I know of what was in this playtest. I would be curious to know from someone like Bo that who played both of them how it had
Yeah.
changed over the course of half a year. But
He said, because we did play it once
yeah.
together, he said that there are meaningful new mechanics
Okay. Cool.
added.
I would say one reason that might not be true is that I don't think it would make sense to have like uh final not obviously you don't think necessarily final, but more finalized UI or more finalized narrative structure or opening things like that wouldn't make sense to have those in the playtest because people aren't supposed to be talking about this anyway. So there's not going to be characters, there's not going to be names included in it, and those games have definitely already been worked on, right? And so like the build that they have of that game, I think does have an opening cutscene, whatever it is, does have a little bit more structure to its presentation that would make it feel more finalized. That wouldn't make sense at all to have an unnamed playtest you cannot talk about. They wouldn't have that stuff in there. So like that stuff is, I think, exists, and if those two parts are stapled together, that might feel like a more finished game.
Yeah,
But
I think
but
I
also
disagree.
there's not time at the end of this year for that to come out,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's time at the beginning of next year either. I think if that's like a summer thing, that makes a lot more sense.
What are the things that sort of exist in percolating in the world in your mind that you think could show up? Well, and I'm not saying that I necessarily think all these are possible, but things along the lines of Pikmin,
Hmm.
Fire Emblem, a revival of some kind,
Yeah,
things like that. Do you think there's anything that's sort of out in the world in your mind that could show up tomorrow?
Fire Emblem's the one I'm most confident about.
Friday?
Um, well, I mean, why don't I just post this tomorrow and then we're not lying?
No, because I should get more. I want
Yeah,
people to have
I know,
more.
I know, fucking around. Fire Emblem, I think is gonna happen. I don't know what happened with that presumed for remake. That could happen, but also like at this point we're we're getting to time for an actual new one. So I don't really know, but I do think a Fire Emblem game will be revealed tomorrow for first half of next year.
Yeah, I think that Fire Emblem is a safe bet.
Yep.
Would that be a Switch 1 and Switch 2 game, or would that just be a Switch 2 game?
Um. Oh, that's interesting. If it's the remake, I think both. If it's because I think it's been worked on long enough. Um,
Sure.
if it's a new game, I think it's just Switch 2. Which makes me actually lean towards it being the remake and that being something that it can use as a 2026 Switch 1 game.
What do you make of Pikmin? Do you think there's anything Pikmin related
That's too
out
soon.
there?
It's too soon.
I think that there'll be something Pikmin related,
Okay.
and I think this could take the form of a
Pikmin
Switch
3
2 edition.
part.
Yeah,
Pikmin 4. Oh, that's an interesting
Pikmin
one.
3 re-raptored.
Yeah. Remastered. Uh, yeah, I think of Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition because that never got one of those free patches. I don't think it was among the lineup. That's a little conspicuous.
I agree. I think because to me, a series like Pikmin, they put so much work into growing its stature with Pikmin 4 that I would be surprised if they just totally let it simmer until Pikmin 5 is ready in,
Yeah,
maybe 2 years' time or
yeah, yeah.
something. Whether that's a Switch 2 edition of 4, whether that's some kind of spin-off title from an unrelated team,
Wasn't that rumored by some fucking character? A Pikmin spinoff?
not somebody will mention on the show.
um,
Not
yeah.
somebody who's ever been right anywhere near enough to be mentioned by as many outlets as we get mentioned by.
Here's the thing that I'm most confused on with this
Yeah.
direct, and what's making it very difficult for me to know how I feel about predicting certain things is there actually are a really solid amount of games already announced that would presumably be coming in the first half of next year, which means we don't necessarily have. And this end of this year is very full already. We don't necessarily have the space like we would with a usual summer direct or a usual September direct where they need to fill in that release cadence. You know, if this was a summer direct, then we'd be expecting them to announce that holiday lineup. If it was a usual
Yeah.
September direct, we'd be getting the February game and the March game announced. But we already have enough games to fill in those slots anyway. There are 4 games that Nintendo's announced that they're
Yeah.
involved in that are going to come out next year. And so like I'm just like thinking through it. I'm like, when were these games released? I mean, Switch 2 editions I think are actually. I mean, maybe we should. It's not a very exciting place to close. We're running out of time, but I think it's very possible we see maybe 2 of those tomorrow because those can also release alongside things. They don't need to
Yeah.
take up a whole release like slot. They don't seem to be marketing them super heavily. They're just like, yeah, just put them out there. People will talk about them. They'll just be there for perpetuity. I think that's kind of their thought process on those.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that if there's a Pikmin 4 one, that's a good candidate to release this month. Um,
Yeah.
Here's where I want to close as we're wrapping up. We've talked about all these options here, and again, we've been assessing likelihood of things existing, not necessarily things being shown off.
Hmm.
So to close out, where is your head at in terms of what we would actually see? In term, whether you want to go specific games or a volume of games. Let's close off by now synthesizing everything we have into what could actually emerge.
Yeah.
Because let me give you mine while you're thinking on yours. I'm gonna stick to Prime 4 opening,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna stick to something big closing.
Sure.
I'm gonna put a pin in Animal Crossing for that, but
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say a big tease for 2026 in the closing.
Hmm. Yeah, I
I'm
agree with
gonna
that.
say a Switch 2 edition uh, releasing in September.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say a Mario related title releasing still in 2025,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna say one other thing. I'm gonna say a total of five announcements from five Nintendo published announcements.
Yoshi.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Five Nintendo published announcements
And no Fire Emblem.
between Switch 2 edition. Well, that it could be that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just because I'm partially just thinking in volume. Because I don't want to get
Yeah.
crazy with it. Because I think only one of the opener or closer will be brand new, and then a couple
Mm.
things across the run of show.
Sure. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go slightly more ambitious than you, only in
Sure.
that I think a new opening and closer are very likely. Even if it's something like open on Fire Emblem, close on Mario. We both think both those games will be there,
Yeah.
and I think they actually they opened on Engage when that was the new game, and
Sure.
actually they opened on Three Hopes as well, if you recall. So I think that they would want something fresh to be opening things. I don't think a release date for something that is ultimately comparatively a smaller tier title, like a Fire
Bigger
Emblem
than
game.
Fire Emblem.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, maybe not, right? Like, Fire Emblem games, don't they sell pretty commensurate to Metroid games? Isn't it? Aren't they both in like those 3-4 million range?
Oh, Three Houses might be bigger. 4 million, so about the same.
Yeah, yeah. But I do think in terms of a marketing beat, even within a direct, a new game is more important for an opening,
Sure.
um, because they usually also a game that's coming imminently, like within 2 months. That is something that they're like, headline, hey, reminds you it's coming. Here's a release date, and I think the same thing with Hyrule Warriors. Um, yeah, then I think Rhythm Heaven is the one we'd see of one of the um, previously announced games. Raiders, I'm like so because there's so much out there, right? They've announced so many games. The slate is so full that I just don't I don't know. Because
With a runtime of an hour, you could almost show Splatoon Raiders and dedicate like 12 minutes to it.
you could, and you still have a full Nintendo Direct otherwise. But I think to that point, a Mario chunk either in the middle or at the end is probably what they would really
Yeah.
push. Um, but yeah, no, I'm excited about tomorrow because my expectations are actually very low. Because
In
there
what
are
sense?
there are already a bunch of games announced. Like I don't feel like we're hurting for games. There's still two released before the end of this year, 2 or 3 or 4 Nintendo games, and there are already 4 Nintendo games announced for next year. I'm like, and I'm comfortable that I'm like, yeah, an Animal Crossing is coming soon. Something from EB10 is coming soon. Camelot's ready to go soon. Intelligent Systems is ready to go. Like I like a new major Kirby game from HAL. I think is maybe late next year or something. Like, but I don't think now is the time to announce all of these because I'm fighting in my head of there's so much they've already announced and they have started to do condensed for their biggest games, condensed marketing cycles for things like. So I don't know how these things balance out. Nintendo's communication has been different since Switch 2 came out. But they've already got so much to talk about. I wonder if they think that they don't. And this is something I think people need to prep their expectations for. It's actually very possible that very little new is announced tomorrow, and
Yeah.
that is Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life and Metroid and Hyrule Warriors and Yoshi and a Mario game. And like that's it because that's the next 6 months, and that's a lot of fucking games already.
Yeah, I think that there's a sort of a narrative that is being propagated online right now, very heavy, that Nintendo needs to come out with a big showing.
Yeah.
They don't need to do that.
We've been saying
If
this
you're
about
if
PlayStation for the last 30 years, and they're only selling better than ever.
Right. I mean, if your expectation is new games, then I think I again that's why I err more on the side of a tease, a
Yeah,
Switch 2
yeah, yeah,
edition, and maybe one or two more imminent brand new games. But I just think that there's so much to update us on
yeah,
that it's going to feel like a very full show,
yeah.
even if it's not many new announcements.
Yeah,
So
and that's a cool thing about this also being the longest full Nintendo Direct ever. I make
yeah,
that stipulation. It's probably around the same length as the Switch 2 one, but again, they don't have to do hardware stuff. They did like 15 minutes of hardware stuff. So 60 minutes of video game announcements is the biggest amount of Nintendo announcements we ever had in one day before.
yeah,
Um, so it's actually possible they do all of this and more. Like they can do all these updates, announce ports and Switch 2 editions, and announce new games alongside, of course, third party stuff. Which is that's another thing that's gonna be really interesting to look at because okay, you're gonna get Final Fantasy, you're gonna get Elden Ring release dates. I think those are both locks. But like, what I think they want to do a roadmap for 2026 big third party games. And the interesting thing is, yeah, they announced some pretty major third party games from Capcom and Square Enix and things, and Bandai Namco at the partner showcase. But then, what are the games they see as bigger than partner showcase, right? That they want to have in a Nintendo Direct? I think we could actually be looking down a really, really solid lineup of third party games as well.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of smoke around the idea of a lot of Resident Evil stuff coming
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Switch.
Assassin's
So
Creed, Red Dead Redemption, like there's a lot of
yeah,
stuff that they could be working on. I mean, a Wilds port, you know. I mean, I guess Stories 3 is next year. I don't know. There's so much that I'm. It's interesting. I think I'm gonna be happy pretty much no matter what because I think right now is a great time for these games anyway. And I do think that third party stuff is coming. So I think it's gonna be balanced. But I said I'm going to go more ambitious. I'm actually lowering my expectations. Like, look, let's, and this is me just being like, let's be realistic. There's already a lot of stuff happening, and I think Nintendo's communication cadence indicates to me that they want to take things step by step rather than, shooting us out a full 18 months.
yeah, yeah. It'd be very interesting to see what happens on Friday. Obviously,
Oh, will
we'll
you?
be live reacting on Friday, and we'll post our highlights. Of course, like I said, I really truly just need the Prime 4 date, so I'm gonna have my wish granted.
Yes.
I just hope that the granted wish is what I hope it'll be. But
Yeah. Well, see you Friday, fuckers.